Welcome, Kamille Rose Taylor, to the show. She's the CEO Whisperer and a peak performance mindset coach to top entrepreneurs, leaders, and driven individuals. Her specialty as an executive coach is in helping people master their mental game so that they can accomplish their biggest life goals without sacrificing rest, joy, peace, and time with the ones they love most. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Matthias. Excited to be here.
100%. So let's start off with what's your mission on this planet and what was the inflection point that made you start your business?
I love the question, what is your mission on this planet? Because I find it so difficult. I feel like there's many layers to my life now, being a new mom, being a wife, and all of that came after I started my business, The Ultimate Life. But I would say, at least from the business perspective, one of my missions is to help very driven individuals overcome the mental blocks that often hold them back from playing full out. What I loved is, you and I, Matthias, were just kind of jamming before this podcast on how sometimes we do hold ourselves back. And often we don't know what we don't know. So my goal is to help people unlock that fullest potential that they have in life and in business, from figuring out, well, what are the mental monkeys that are toying with you so that we can get you to the next level. So for me, that's my mission, is to help you master your mindset.
Love that, mental monkeys. That's cool. Before all of that, what did you do in your previous life?
Prior to becoming an executive coach, or kind of getting into this peak performance coaching state, I always worked with entrepreneurs, but I did it more in a branding and marketing consultancy aspect. In fact, my very first job out of graduating college was at a local nonprofit organization, and I worked with the youth team to help them raise funds for other sick kids in the community. It was so far off from what I thought I was going to do. But what I found was, even when I was helping this nonprofit and working with youth, particularly middle school and high school kids, and when we were fundraising, I was actually training them to be little entrepreneurs. For example, we would do these lemonade stands every year, and each student in the program would have a lemonade stand. So I would ask them, okay, how much is inventory? How are we going to market? How many people are going to come to your stand? How are you going to allocate time for your volunteers, AKA employees? And that, for me, I think began my love for helping develop people in their potential. But I was doing it in different spaces. I kind of just floated. I went wherever I called it God would take me. And it wasn't until kind of a breaking point when I was, I'd say 27, 26. A relationship of mine had fallen apart. I was feeling really lost in life. I liked what I was doing with entrepreneurs. I did marketing and branding, but I didn't love it. So, talk about full out. I felt like I was playing at 80%. It was like, oh, this is cool. I like it. But I wasn't waking up every morning going, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to build. It was more, it pays the bills. And I'm grateful that it pays the bills. So I was on this hunt of, well, what is it that I want? And I think even deeper, if I'm being really transparent, I didn't really know who I was. I'm an only child, and I'm the eldest on my mom's side of the family of a bunch of grandkids. So I always felt that I was the one leading the way, first to go to college, first to do this, first to do that. And often I felt the pressure to perform, to set a good example, but I never felt like I got the opportunity to really ask, well, what is it that I want? And I think, all intents and purposes, I had a great childhood and great upbringing. But because that was never really practiced or encouraged, I think I got to that point in my life where I was like, I don't know. I don't really ask that question. So through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of soul searching, a lot of personal development work, you and I were just talking about it, I started digging deep into the work of things like folks like Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn, and reading all of the books, going to all of the seminars, not to just go and feel good, but to actually do the work, like to get the pen and paper, to be honest with myself, to go into my childhood. And then I started investing. I started getting my own coaches and going to therapists. And from that started to emerge, oh, that's what I've been wanting to do. And it was that process, though, of I had to put skin in the game. Honestly, if I was just reading books and going to seminars, it wouldn't have changed it. But the minute I put money down and I was like, I'm paying this person X thousand a month to ask me questions, like, what am I thinking? But it's exactly what I needed at the time.
Very inspiring. This may be a good segue to talk about your offer. So what's the offer that a typical customer would get? What's the value they get?
What's you said the value that they get?
Yeah, like if let's say I'm a prospect, like what's the offer and what value do I get as a
So I,
customer?
so the offer is really to help you overcome the limiting mindsets and beliefs that you
Mhm.
may not have even realized was there so that you can play at the highest levels of your game in business and in life, and to do that in a very short period of time. So what I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and years working on was partly to help myself heal, but also to build a skill set to help people get there
Mm.
quicker. So, what I offer is to be able to condense 10, 20 years of my own deep coaching and therapy work, and for high performers specifically, to get on a phone call with them and in 30 to 60 minutes uncover what might usually take months, if not years of time. And the reason I say high performers is because typically I'm working with somebody who they've got to make a big decision and they have to make a big decision somewhat quickly, but a lot is riding on it. So they don't want to be callous or haphazard, but at the same time, they can't be in analysis paralysis for the next three,
Yeah.
6, 7 months, right? So that's where I come in. Is
What's a
okay,
typical let's say how does it typically work? Is it for example one-on-one, weekly or monthly, bi-weekly calls for 3 months for a certain retainer?
yeah. So some people I speak with every single week or every 2 weeks, and there's usually a 1 year retainer for that for high
Hmm.
performers. And then for those who are not ready for private, but they want the accountability and the weekly like motivation, I have a group mastermind, and every single week I get on these calls and we talk about business, life, mindset. And you're coaching with me personally in a Zoom room as we're recording this. It could be a different software later on. But essentially, we live mastermind every single week as a group. So it's either one to one with me over the phone, depending on your level, or live with me in a group setting, masterminding with other entrepreneurs and high
Got it. What are the
performers.
price points for both?
So for the yearly, it's 25,000 for the one to one, and then for the group coaching, it is 997 a month. So 1,000 a month for the group mastermind.
Yeah, great. What's the funnel from awareness to I get my credit card out and sign up for one of these?
There's multiple entry points. I'd say one of the entry points is YouTube. So they find me on YouTube or they go on my YouTube channel. They get a CTA from there, a call to action. They click a link on my site, schedule a clarity call. I get on the call with them or someone on my team, and we offer them what we could do to help, and then they sign up from there.
Very
The
clear.
other, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I would say the other way I do it is I'm often doing live speaking engagements. So that's very common for me as well, to be live on stage speaking. And if I'm not pitching a product, I just end the keynote. And afterwards in the private conversations, then I just send them the booking link for a clarity call or a strategy call.
Okay, very, very, very clear. What tools do you use to deliver the value? I guess Zoom.
What was that again?
What tools do you use to deliver the value?
So there's Zoom. I use ConvertKit for all of my email marketing.
Yeah,
Currently, I'm using Kajabi to host the courses,
yeah.
but I'm switching. So I don't know if I could say that live, but I'm switching over to
Oh, cool.
Passion.io to deliver it all. Yeah. So
It's
I'm
amazing.
yeah, I'm working directly with Dan through this first cohort of coaching, and that's one of my big reasons for joining this, X amount of week program with him is because how do I move all of my content here? Because what I've found for me is I got off of Facebook. That used to be a tool, but it's too crowded. It's too noisy. And my audience really wanted one place to go that they could access easily from their phone when they're traveling. And I wanted to build an app, but I had no idea how. And it was way too expensive. So that's where Passion came along. And so now I'm transferring over. So that'll be the main go to there.
Lovely. What's the status here? Like, take me on a timeline. Like, when do you launch? Did you launch? Will you launch?
Sure. So I started my coaching practice in January of 2016.
Yeah.
And so it's evolved over these past 7 to 8 years from live speaking engagements only and one to ones only to one to ones and group to now online and group. So the kind of a combination of both, but now mostly online because I have clients all over the world, which is really beautiful.
Very clear. Let's maybe switch over to a success section. How many paying customers do you have today?
Oh gosh, good question. I don't have the exact number, but I'd say anywhere between 60 to 75. And then when I do my live launch, because I do have live programs that I launch every single year, it usually goes up to about 100 when people are in my 100 days of focus program.
Okay, and that is so active right now. So right now there's 60 people that you that are either in a group session or you work with one-on-one.
One to
Is that
one.
correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, that is really good. Let me quickly run the numbers. Likely you have 10 people, not more than that on a one-to-one, maybe 15, 20 max. 10, that is 250 a year, and then 1K a month times 60 would be 60. And the 250 have divided by 12 is another 20, 80K a month. A million. You're just at a million.
Close to. I would say that's projected going forward because I do have some what I call the legend status clients. So those are people at the older price points,
Yeah.
but they are baked in for the rest of their life. It's kind of my way of saying thank you to my early adopters for believing in me. But yes, that's the projected going into the next year.
Nice. And you're, I mean, you need the 83K run rate to hit 1 million, right? 83,000 a
Yeah,
month
I
times
know.
12. Like, are you at 60, 70? How close are you?
I'm probably halfway there, a little bit more than halfway.
Yeah.
And
Nice. That's really good.
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm excited for the number, but it's sometimes it's like just things you can't control. But my
Yeah.
everyday process I can't control. So I love your questions of, well, how do people get to know me? What are we doing? And so this is where passion, I'm hoping, even streamlining that will just be such a value add for the new members.
Clear. And next year you want to make 80. Where are you coming from? Are you coming from also 20, so 20, 40, 80? Or how is the growth over the last 12 months?
Oh gosh. It's been kind of exponential because I remember when I first started, like year one, I was like in the negatives. And then by about year three, I hit my stride. And I think it was the first time I had broken like 100K.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of fluctuating years when I've adjusted the model. Um, but I would say this past year is more of like the breakthrough year as I approach increasing my prices, getting really dialed in on who my audience is, and marketing to them specifically. I would say also using YouTube. So I've been working on YouTube with my own coach there to optimize that. So that'll be added to that recurring revenue, ideally, and then top of funnel in that strategy.
Yeah. So what, like 20, like half of that likely, if it's exponential, 20, 40, like that would be
20 meaning
20K a month last year, like 1 year ago, December, November
yeah,
2022.
probably. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about right. I think you're good at numbers. That is not my forte. Yeah, just about.
Sorry about that.
No,
Yeah.
no, don't be sorry. You're great at numbers.
Let's move over to a section called lead channels. I think this is also super interesting. So to hit these numbers, right? Like how do you get customers? Like what are the marketing channels? What's the audience size?
Yeah, so I'd say for me, the marketing channels, one, the speaking engagements, and then adding people to my list from there. Referrals, so that is a big one because particularly with private clients, a lot of that at that level, it's the CEO tells that CEO. They're usually not just searching me off of Google, they need to hear word. But for the mass, it's YouTube. So YouTube has been really big for me. And the reason is because I just leave content on there. And as I pump out new content, obviously people watch it, but it's how people date me before they decide if they want to marry me. And so people
Love
will
it.
follow me 6, 12, sometimes even 2, 3 years because, and I love this one, when somebody's followed me for 2, 3 years, I'm not saying you need to wait that long, but if you do, when they come to me and say, hey, I've been saving my money to work with you, that to me means a lot
Wow.
because by the time they're in, like they're all in because they've done the work to sacrifice to invest in themselves.
Totally.
So that's such an honor. Then somebody who's just like, I don't know, you charge a lot, I'll just try it, let's see if it works. But then they're usually putting the onus back on me to prove to them. You know what I mean? So
100%. How big is the YouTube audience and how has it grown over the last 12 months?
oh gosh, it's been the same. I mean, I haven't grown it too much yet. I only have about, I'd say a little over 1,000, not too much.
Love it. Love
Um,
it. That's
but
amazing.
but check in with me in 6 to 7 months from this conversation because I'd love to
Yeah.
see where my growth goals go from there.
Yep. Yeah, you make 500,000 with 1,000 followers. That's super good. What's the main country? Like from the US, Canada, or?
Mostly from the US, yeah. I've got a couple of clients from Canada. Um, I have followers in other nations, but not clients
Hmm.
yet. I think I had one from the Philippines at one point.
Okay. And YouTube was also the starting channel, and is the one that where you see the biggest potential going forward.
You said, is it YouTube that I see the biggest potential going forward?
Yeah, biggest potential going forward, and also the one where you started.
Yes. Well, I started mainly in-person speaking engagements and workshops, but
Hmm.
I say YouTube is going to be the place moving forward because for my style and what I love to do, I love public speaking and I do love teaching. So for me, YouTube is the scalable version of what I get to do on a physical stage, and then now doing it on a virtual
Yeah.
stage. Yeah.
Very clear. Real quick before we move on, you very briefly mentioned list size or audio, like you have a list. Like how big is that list, and how important is it for your business?
It's crucial. And if I'm being completely transparent, I haven't optimized it. So I want to say my list is right under 2,000 email list wise. Not huge. So, and I know that a lot of folks say that you don't need a huge list necessarily to do well. And I think that's true. It just needs to be very targeted. And I've lost a lot of people over the past couple of years. And I used to hate that because I felt like, oh no, I'm losing people. But actually, I shifted my own mindset and realized that's good because those people, maybe they would have never bought from me anyway. It's the wrong a message for them. And so I don't want to bother them anyway, because they're also not going to want to
Yeah.
mess with me. But the people who have stayed, I do my best to speak to them directly.
Awesome. Expenditures. Let's move on. Expenditures. I guess it must be fairly small, right? Like you're likely by yourself, some VAs or maybe contractors potentially, and then like costs for tools, personal development. Is that about it?
Yeah, so I have currently have an executive assistant. She's virtual, but she helps with everything. I have a couple of vendors I work with from time to time, contract work, some stuff with graphic design, photography, editing, things like that. Overhead, you're right, is pretty minimal. As of right now, I have a home office, but for the most part, my biggest overhead right now is just the softwares. The different tiers that you have when you're
Yeah.
managing everything online. Um, and then eventually, I will need to probably bring on 1 to 2 more people to help on the marketing side and then fielding some of the customer relationship stuff, especially as the membership grows, because I can't handle it all by myself.
Great transition to the future section. Can you get it up to 10x by yourself? So 5 million, like right now you're at 500K, 5 million.
And then the question
And
is, can I get there by myself?
can you get it there? Can you get there by yourself? And what's the best strategy to actually win big on that in the next 12 months?
Coming from the perspective of I don't know what I don't know, because this is all like just visioning, right? Because I've never been there. Um, I'm gonna very quickly, from gut instinct, say no. I can't get there by myself, with the caveat that I can't get there by myself and live the life that I want to live. Right. So I probably could if I hustled and worked 24/7 and I never had time. But that's, the company is called The Ultimate Life. And to me, that is not my ultimate life, is
Yeah.
to slave away. I've got a kiddo, husband, like I want to travel. So I'm really big on the concept of if I want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so I know I'm going to have to build, my goal is to build a very lean team. I'm not trying to have a huge organization. So I would love to have no more than 5, 6, 7 people max, even, and then
Yeah.
for us to do multi-million in sales. And then my goal is to have a global team, so I want it completely virtual. I don't really want to have local overhead.
Clear. Very clear. Um, Next, like really quickly, like the strategy to make a big difference to your business in the next 12 months. How do you do it? What's the growth strategy?
A lot of it is investing and working with the experts who have gone to that 5 million and above where I haven't yet. And so that is my YouTube coach. A lot of it is working with Dan directly at Passion, because that is what I consider still my team, right? They may
Yeah.
not be full-time employees, but I'm still paying them per year to get me there faster and more wisely. Because again, I don't know what I don't know.
Clear.
And yeah.
Biggest thing holding you back?
Good question. I would say my own mindset with regards to, at times, I still feel like I'm not good enough to hold that amount of wealth and use it well. I know that's not true, but there's a part of me that still feels that or worries that that's the case. And I would say the second, and I'm not making it an excuse, is my 1 year old getting up and multiple times in the night and having to function off of 2 hours of sleep. So it's hard to stay focused during the day when you feel that way.
Oh, I can relate to that a lot.
I love him, so I
Moving,
love the season of my life. Don't get me wrong.
moving over to a section I call the famous five. You can answer in one word. What's your favorite business book?
Ooh, Atomic Habits.
What's the favorite person that you're studying, your role model?
Hmm. Favorite person that I'm studying? Ooh, that's a tough one. Can I come back to this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite social media channel for inspiration?
YouTube.
Favorite online tool for building your company?
I don't know if it's a tool. Was YouTube count?
Yeah, fair enough. Biggest thing on your mind right now?
Oh gosh, serving more people.
Moving over to personal, how many hours do you sleep per night? You just said 2 hours. Is that the actual amount?
No, I mean I will get usually somewhere between 7 to 8, but that's there are nights where it is just a
I
couple of
know.
hours with a toddler.
What's the situation? Single, married, and of course, like one kid, right?
Yeah, married with a 1 year old as of this recording. Yes,
Love it. What's your age?
38.
Love it. Final question, as we also want to give some advice to the audience. If you could go back in time and have a conversation with your 20-year-old self, what's the best piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
It might take longer than you think, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And to be patient in the process because you will absolutely get there. So don't let time discourage you just because you didn't get it done in 1 year or 6 months.
Thank you. That is Kamille Taylor. She's the CEO of Whisperer. She helps individuals to solve mental blocks or monkeys and therefore become more successful. She worked over decades on herself to unlock and get all this coaching in to actually give that knowledge, pass that on to others in an effective way. She has a really good group coaching offer worked out, and she also does one-on-one. Her main channels are YouTube, where people build up trust over sometimes even years, and then at some point they book a clarity call with her, and from there then they commit. She loves Zoom and ConvertKit for emails, is on Kajabi, moves to Passion, has started a business seven years ago, is on a really good trajectory to crack the 1 million fairly soon. With a really, really small audience of 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and an email list of less than 2,000 people, predominantly in the US. And she has now like a good plan and working on a mindset to actually crack that 1 million ultimately. Thank you so much for sharing your passion and taking us to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That was